Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Uh-huh. So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
Hey, we want to shout out to our sponsors, Daytona Beach Comic Con. If you are a fan of comic books, if you're a fan of comic book conventions, and if you like meeting comic book creators and getting comics and comic-related stuff, then you need to make your plans to attend Daytona Beach Comic Con. This year's show is September 7th and 8th. Silverline will be there, so you should make your plans to be there too. We'll see you there. If you like comics and find yourself in the Orlando, Florida area, doesn't everyone come to Orlando at some point in time to see the House of Mouse? But when you're here, you need to make it a point to visit Coliseum of Comics, especially the one on East Colonial Drive. They carry Silverline Comics, even a limited edition Coliseum of Comics version of our comics. So, when you go, be sure to ask for Silverline Comics and tell them we sent you. OCD stands for Orlando Collector Deviants. OCD, Steve and Trish, they're a family of geeks who promote geek things, particularly those around the Orlando, Florida area. They're big supporters of Silverline, and we think you should be supporters of theirs too. Go give them some love. If you are an independent comic book maker and you need to get your independent comics made, you need to look no further than Kablam Digital Printing. They print our books, and they do a bang-up job. They're not only trusted by Silverline, but many, many independent comic book makers. Head on over to kablam.com and see for yourself just how easy it is to have your comic printed by them. And tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Barb Kilber, co-host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham. Join us each Wednesday nights as we discuss comics, literature, movies, and anything else that may catch our attention.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard of Panic at the Disco. Get ready for anxiety at Applebee's. It's a show on Tuesday. We don't have a right banner, but I don't know how to change that, so it is what it is. This is Silverline Show on Tuesday. I'm Roast, Tim TK, and I'm joined, as sometimes, by Queen Mackenzie.
Hey, I'm trying to be more frequent. I just had a rough couple of weeks. And it's always on Tuesday.
Yes. If anything's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong on a Tuesday. So we're just glad to have you.
I know.
Yes. We are here. Normally, we're also joined by Quentin Bedwell and Jose Fuentes. They didn't mention anything, so I think they've just disappeared from the face of the earth. Jose did say he's going to be absent. Not sure about Quentin. So, hello, everyone.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Jose said he wasn't going to be here.
Yeah. Jose turned in his doctor's note. Quentin, nothing yet. So, so it'll be Queen Mackenzie and myself, and we are talking the cost of self-publishing a comic book. This will be interesting as the other two are more traditionally in comics medium full-time. You came in from film, I believe. I came in from traditional publishing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep.
But we do have some good news, though. I did crowdsource the research. Yeah, exactly. So we'll have some talking points that we'll riff on. Might be a shorter stream that we usually go for, but hopefully we can provide some context. So if you are new to comic books, or if you have been away from some time and want to see what the heck inflation is doing to you, my friend Melissa Mazzaros from Don't Hide PR grabbed some information from a bunch of other people in our indie comics space. So I got some answers from people around, established, not established, and see what their price ranges are for if you are handling all the finances yourself, what that cost comes to. Or if you're like us at Silverline, or my buddy Tom Pear over at Ahoy, your CFO hides those numbers from you, so you don't actually need to see the pain. Yes. Yeah, we'll get into that in a little bit here. But first, Mackenzie, how's your day, Bonu? What have you been up to? What sort of media have you been ingesting?
Oh my gosh. So here's the thing. Any media that I've been ingesting has been at my physical therapy appointments and has just been on the TV. The only other media outside of that is like House of Dragon has me like in a chokehold.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know what to do about it. So that's that one's real. I wasn't really into Game of Thrones, but that show, man, that has me in a chokehold.
I'm interested in getting back into that because I was one of those people that had read all the books, loved the show, and then we got the last 2 seasons, which felt like I had been waterboarded after being on vacation for a week. It's like you're in this really nice, lovely experience, and then they just gut you. They take it away. But I've been hearing from a lot of people that
it's like really good.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. I mean, it's the abusive ex that goes to rehab for 2 years, and has actually changed and comes back. Yes, very good.
Yeah, and I feel like there's a lot better. I don't know, right? Like, I didn't finish Game of Thrones because I got into it really late. So when I like the shitty ending happened while I was like on season 5, and obviously you can't avoid it. So like everybody's pissed about it, and I was like, I can't continue and invest my life in these characters and know that's the outcome. So I didn't finish it because I was upset. And then I saw the preview for House of the Dragon, and I was like, because I was like Team Targaryen all the way. I was like, yes, get Daenerys on that throne, all of that. And then they casted Matt Smith, and I was like, oh, there's another sucker punch. I love that man. So they got me.
That's the English heartthrob, if ever there was one of our generation.
I know.
Yeah.
And I know he doesn't, and people go off about oh, he's like an ugly cute because that man doesn't have eyebrows. But let me tell you, that man controls a scene. He's a fabulous actor. He really is.
Listen, eyebrows they're passing nicety. All right, we don't need them. Eventually, humans will turn into hairless, lengthy abominations as we evolve in space. But yeah. Get used to no eyebrows.
Yeah, Matt Smith's just ahead of the curve.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Myself, I have been too far deep in the new Gundam series and the Return of Bleach to get back into House of Dragon. So I have been reliving my own trauma with the Bleach ending abruptly in 2012. Trauma. Yes. Well, the manga continued, but the TV show was just canceled. And now we're finally getting the final season, and it's really good. And the new Gundam is also very great. So there you go. All right, so that's been our media update. So you know what our tastes are, what's kind of fueling our tastes at the moment. And we'll get into the news here. We did get a chatter. I got a project I'm working on. I've spent nearly $3,000 on concept character designs and pinups. Sadly, some didn't turn out that well. I got more expenses coming. And that's about right from what we've got here. And sometimes those character designs don't turn out the way you want them. Which sometimes as a creator, if it's like hard details you want to get exactly right, sometimes you have to suck up that cost and pay again. Other times, you suck down the designs. So you're like, all right, it's not what I want, but I'll do. I guess I gotta get something done. I'll just fire that artist down the line and get someone new. This is perhaps something that we'll get in before we get into the from the outside looking in. I had to answer this question for a friend recently. She's a traditional writer out of New Zealand, like myself, only in New Zealand. And she had a bunch of new. She did a workshop on a bunch of new writers who were wanting to ask her questions about writing comics, writing graphic novels, and all that, and had brought up the expenses that they were seeing. And in traditional publishing, that's not really a thing. So once I got into comics and I got used to that, I was in a place that, provide content that, and that, traditional publishing, if a publisher or an agent is asking you for money up front, it's a scam. Run away. Agents should always want
Don't fall for it.
Yeah, agents will always want a percentage or royalties, and a publisher will always take a market share.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone's asking you for upfront, they're not going to do anything for your book. You're their entire profit puppy, not your book. But coming from film, if you're perhaps if you're cast, crew, director, whatever, you don't necessarily have expenses, but unless bootstrap budget and you're the DP having to like scrounge up and find your own like black magic. But traditionally, the producer is the one who fronts the bill for that. So I know you have some experience working in film, so kind of that transition from film to comics. Did you see some similarities in upfront costs?
I think it's kind of the same regardless if you're talking like traditional or I'm saying like book publishing versus comic publishing versus that with film. There's different expenses that that you think on the outside are kind of different, because it's like, oh, with film you don't really need to put as much into character concepts and in depthly. You just need to have like a storyboard. Where comics you need like to have that whole 9 yards. But they even out. There's a lot of similarities. I feel like at the end of the day, it's all just a creative space,
right?
And it's how you work through it. There's gonna be different expenses depending on what you want to work on, because if you're going to do a live action film, then that might be a little more out of pocket than trying to do a comic, because you're dealing with a lot more people depending on how the script is worked. Because I've worked on things where like people are like, yeah, we have no budget, let's like get as many actors and actresses as we can because I have this big screen, like a big script to film. And it's like, no, when you start out, that's why people do like a movie in a one shot room,
right?
Because it helps with cost. Comics, you don't have to do that. Comics, it doesn't matter if you draw more than one room. So there's definitely things that even out, but they're like, I feel like you would think on paper they look like they're different. Sure. But once you start like grinding them down, you're like, oh no, this evens out.
Definitely. Okay. But yeah, I mean, so it's just kind of setting a groundwork here, setting our parameters that are operating. So if you're coming into comics from the outside looking in, expect to pay more money, which you necessarily wouldn't do if you're sending a pitch document out to a publisher, but spend less money than if you're a producer working on your first film. Unless you're making Tangerine, in which case you just need an iPhone and much more talent than I have. That was, I don't know if you ever saw that. I believe it was called Tangerine. It was a movie that was shot in Orlando just on one iPhone. Ended up winning some awards.
I feel like I with Full Sail, I feel like we talked about like that stuff because like I remember going through things and people like shot things on their iPhones.
Yes, yeah. I think also at that time, I think it just popped off about the time that we have been going through it. So everyone's like, well, if they can do that, I can do it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's kind of the big thing with people having, and I don't want to like say anything bad that like makes people be like, oh no, I can't dream. But like, just because you have the means to do something doesn't mean you should. Like, even though you're looking at this and it looks like, oh yeah, this is a good investment. Like, I can do this because what's his face did it. It's not always the case.
Right. You never ride someone else's coattails. You're always going to end up making your own thing. You'll find your own thing that works out down the line, but if you're just trying to copy what someone else did because they won awards, it's again, they have much more talent than I do, so I never tried to do that. But
no.
Yes. All right. So as I mentioned before, we got some input from chatters and other people in chat. If you also have your own budgetary nightmares or experiences, feel free to relay those and we'll bring them up. But as we said, I did crowdsource some research here to Melissa from Don't Hide. And another friend of mine, Doug Wood, was one of the first ones to respond, and went into quite a lot of detail here because he actually broke down the cost for a 4-issue arc.
Heavy detail.
Yes. And so his last 4-issue arc, he said, cost him the cost of a decent used car or a surgery in the U.S. Yeah. So he broke it down as a writer who's paying it all out of pocket. So he's paying the artist, colors, letterer, separate cover artist, and the printer, and shipping on top of that.
Yeah.
So his last run, his artist page rate, he did 20 pages per issue. His artist page rate was $150 per page. So one issue was $3,000 just to get the pencils and inks done. Right. His colorist only charged $40. And so is $800 per page. I believe the colorist and letterer are also personal favors. I believe they're also friends of his who just wanted some extra cash on the side.
Yeah.
Either that or letters just knocked out super quick because he only paid $10 per page for lettering, so that's only $200.
I like that. That number. That's a good number.
Cover art was $300. Printing cost for 300 copies for one issue, $861. And then shipping for those 300 copies was about $1,000. Not including cost of time, including his own time doing editing, logo, and then also additional cost of materials for the actual shipping, like getting like the boxes and packing peanuts and all that jazz. So his total cost for one issue was $6,161. For the full 4-issue arc, costs were about the same. So it ended up costing him $24,644.
Oh my goodness.
Go. And
this is a dumb question that I should know, but I just write, so I don't know. Do comics need like an ISBN, or do they like get away with that?
They get away with that, especially if you're self-published.
Oh,
yes.
Because even if you self-publish with like books, you need them.
Right.
And you have to pay for those fuckers.
Yeah, I know. Comics are weird. I believe you can register for them if you're going for like doing a graphic novel. Or if you're going through a major publisher, I believe they'll cover that themselves.
Oh, okay.
But the way you kind of get around that is the fact that you're treating it more as just a visual art, so you're covered by the copyright. You can file for trademark also for your name and any character names. But your main protection there, and also the way you're registered, is mostly by copyright.
Yeah.
Moon Knight. Yes, we are here to answer questions.
Hi, Moon Knight.
Yeah, we're talking about the cost of publishing comics. And we just went through Doug Wood's last 4-issue arc, the way that his budget broke down. Okay, unrelated, but this is probably my favorite news of the week, especially after the crap show that was Twitch on Sunday. But what do you think about Sacha Baron Cohen confirmed as Mephisto and Ironheart? So into it. Sacha Baron Cohen is one of the greatest auteurs of our time. And I believe that he's going to bring a certain level of psychotic energy to Mephisto. I know he can do serious work. Sacha Baron Cohen can do serious work. But I believe we're going to get it's not going to be as silly joke haha, perhaps, as the last Thor was, or some of Taika's other works. I believe we're going to ride the line of laughably evil, like someone who is just so unhinged, with having a completely like unrelenting dark side, but also an unhinged sense of humor. So that's what I'm hoping for.
I was gonna say, you're speaking your hopes aloud.
I am. I'm speaking that into existence, and the universe will receive it. And I don't know.
Send it his way.
Exactly. I don't. I'm in Aries. I don't know if the stars are aligned for that, but there you go. Stranger. Sometimes it takes 2 to 4 artists to get your character right. This was my first year in this world. I didn't know how much, but hopefully I can do better with what I learned in 2015 and beyond. Yeah, especially, yeah. I mean, with anything, there's always growing pains, but when those growing pains are, real life money dollars, you can definitely feel that, but that's a good attitude to have. Take it as a lesson. Understand, like, okay, well, now I know how to perhaps pre-qualify my artists a little bit more beforehand.
Yeah.
Because that's another thing is, we may feel as writers that we don't get that we're the ones begging for artist attentions. But you still need to be a certain level of picky. You're the one paying them, but you still need to be picky on who you pay, because you need to, So really dig into those profiles. Unless someone uploads like their entire portfolio to Reddit, I always make sure they have a website that they have a ton of content on that I can scroll through.
And I think it's also important you don't, especially if it's your creation going forward, like something that you put your time and energy in, and that's what I always call is kind of your baby. Like you need to also make sure that you're getting an artist that is willing to work with you and hear your vision. Because I've worked with artists that are just like, yep, I get what you're laying down, and take it, and they do not get what you're laying down. And you're like, okay, well, let's change it. And they are like dead set against it. Yeah. Like they're just like, no, this is how it is. And it's like, no, like this is my baby. Like we're gonna, and I always said that's why I was so grateful for Quentin when we got paired together for Nightrise. Just because Quentin and I, like our creative flames, like everything I laid down, he picked up. And like that doesn't always happen, and you do have to wait for that. And just because, for an example, I hope this doesn't happen for me, or anyone else, but like sometimes you get an artist that is really good for one project, and then you jump over to another one and they're not great for that one. Right. It's kind of, you have to pick and choose, and definitely do your research.
Exactly. And I kind of lost it there in a set for a little bit. If you caught that. Distracted tonight as well. I am one of my dearest friends, known him since I was an infant. He just had his daughter.
Aww.
But literally 3 hours ago, they confirmed the delivery. He just messaged me with his commentary on tonight's episode of AEW that he's currently watching. He's currently watching pro wrestling. So maybe the baby's still observation.
You know how like our Tuesday night show always like gets off topic, like, and then you try so hard. You're thankful it's just me, because like we get like down a path, and then you try to like figure out, okay, like we got on Call of Duty, how do we get that back to comics?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Jose and I always go off on Phantom of the Opera, and you're like, yes, how do we get this back to comics?
Tie it back together. Yeah. I mean that's I mean, I work in marketing full time, so my job is to figure out how to make things relate that shouldn't.
Yeah, so you're good at it.
But yeah, Moon Knight followed up. I remember Sacha Baron had played a devil before in Tim Burton's Sweeney Todd. Yes. Sacha Baron, he's done serious roles, but he's, I mean, I have not seen any one of his works that I've not, that he's not fully sold me on.
Yeah, I mean, when he played King Julian in Madagascar, I mean, I really think that's the French kiss.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Yeah. There we go. Where's the right tab? There. Yes. So. And if you have Marvel money, you don't necessarily care about these things because you can just paying people's contracts out of pocket to pick up Sacha Baron for Mephisto. Yeah. But we have to care about money, so that's what we're talking about costs tonight. So we kind of went over that. Doug Woods is a bit more of a established creator, so about $150 and all that. That all sounds about right, with some personal favors thrown in there.
Yeah.
And then ended up. The rest of his thread turned into him encouraging artists to, feel comfortable charging as much as they do, because it's a skill set.
Oh, don't say that on here. Yeah. No, don't charge that much.
Yeah, no. I always stand up as pay your artists, and artists know your worth. charge as much money as you need to make a living. Yes. I'm a, and if you're a writer, always be artist. And this whole thing that's got to like take into is the fact that if you're an artist and trying to make this your full-time job, or if you're a writer and you want to be a full-time comic creator, you need full-time artists. Not only are covering
the other thing, not to cut you off, Tim, I think it's really important to say, like, yeah, know your worth, but like if you're just starting out, you can't be charging those big upfront prices. Like, you need do a couple smaller things. I'm not saying you can't charge, but like get some things under your belt. That way, that you prove that you like, yeah, I've done these before and I've done that, because I know a lot of people that started out and they were great. They gave me samples and they're like, yeah, but this is what I charge. And I'm like, you have nothing under your belt. I'm not paying that. So
definitely get your experience in, because you need it to be hire worthy. But once you do,
then know your worth.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, at this point, I'm looking for someone with titles, and if they have titles, I'm not going for anyone who charges less than $100 per page.
Yeah.
Because then they don't take themselves seriously enough for me.
Yeah.
And that's but definitely know how to scale yourself appropriately. Because not only are you covering your cost of the materials that you use just to create this book, but also you have to think back, and now you're covering the cost of your time, the cost of your education. You have to start making all that back up in your work. Let's see there. So now let's look at some other ranges of the spectrum, since we got Doug Wood breaking it down in really fine detail. And he's been in this game for longer than I have. Someone who I'm mutually connected with, but I have not really had any interaction with. CJ Hudson. They broke it down that they end up paying anywhere from, depending on the greater artist. I'm guessing they worked with some people who just got out of college, because their low end was $60 per page for art and colors. So if maybe that was an artist and colorist, like one person who's doing both and just got out of college and charging that much.
I was gonna say,
even then, that might be too cheap.
I was thinking, I don't know if I'd do that.
To $300 per page sounds about right. Another $20 for lettering and $10 per page for editing. So that's something interesting. Getting a professional editor. If you're not working with a traditional publisher, if you do want a outside editor and want to have some professional grade, you will need to hire an outside editor. Ranges on that can vary wildly. I did do some freelance editing, and for that I charged $25 a page. But again, I had experience in traditional publishing and had won some awards on short stories. So I like to know what I think I know what I'm talking about when it comes to writing. For some people, what I've been doing recently, I've been actually, thanks to having long-standing connections, and this is maybe a benefit of having experience, is having a fellow writer who just wants something to do, be a beta reader for me to handle edits at that point. And that's a lot of people do that as professional courtesies, because then that means that you know that you're obligated to beta read their next book.
Yeah.
It's a job. But there is definitely a lot of value in having an outside perspective on your writing, either professionally or as a courtesy from another colleague. So they broke down that their total cost ended up being about, on the low end, 2,000 to 7,000 experience per issue. They give a really wide range, and I don't know who their artist was for that $60 page, but that is, no.
They must add some dirt on them.
I know. It's like you were holding their family captive to get them that cheap.
Yeah.
This is my first year. I didn't know pricing. About the artist and resume or following charged me $100. Yeah. I mean, if you're finding artists for $20-30 cheaper, those are probably people who had just got out of college, are probably fresh on their experience, so their experience is fresh in their head, and they're charging a little bit less because they just want to get titles under their belt. So that sounds about right. Like Mackenzie was saying earlier. if someone is charging you 100 or more, you check their portfolio. They should have experience. They should have experience that you can like verify with Comic Vine or Comixology or whatever. And they should have titles or published samples that they can provide to you.
Yeah. And I think it's like, I know when I first like started, and it wasn't even started with comics, like I think it started with children's books. I was like, and I'm going to say it this way, and I'm not sure if I'm going to say it correctly. I was kind of scared, like as the writer, like I was like, well, I don't really know drawing. Like I doodle, but I don't know. So I was scared to be like, hey, can I check in? Can I see your work? And I think that's something you definitely should do, because like it's better to catch that early than them give you the whole line art and it's like done and you hate all of it, you know?
I mean, all the artists that I've worked with of a professional grade have been more than willing to send me updates or are even checking in themselves frequently to make sure they're getting stuff right.
Yeah.
Because a good artist will know that the continued sales of that book, even if their contract stipulates that they only get their page rate, that you're buying up the rights in total, which,
yeah,
you know, try to get that in if you can.
Yeah.
They contracts are a whole other topic we might do at some point, but artists know that even if they're not making money off the long tail of the book, off the continued sales, the return back on that is more work, and probably more immediate work with you, because you're going to want to create the next issue. But then people who that's going to generate also more work from other writers and whoever that you work with, that that also want to hire their services. There we go. All right, so we got kind of scaling down here. We got someone very well experienced working with a full team, Doug Wood, with his price point. CJ Hudson, experienced, but also given their what the cost was probably when they were starting out, hiring artists who are also just starting out. And now very bottom of the scale, a friend of mine, Laurie, also known as Blackfire Press. They do everything themselves. They're a writer illustrator. Currently working with, I believe, Arsenal. Yeah. And so their total costs that they're on their end, not including floppies and shipping, all that, printing and all that, is about $40 in material.
40.
Yes. So if you're a writer and want to keep your expenses low, go back to art school.
Okay, maybe I should stop doodling as a hobby and start drawing.
Start working on yeah. That's the thing. When I that's about, I said that for 40 to 100 on material and whatever, and then imprinting and shipping after that. But the amount of like writers I've talked to who also do their own art, and like, so when I do for my cost, there's kind of cringe and like, man,
it like irritates me because my father went to school to be an illustrator, and he refuses to draw anything for me. And I'm like, dude, these are the numbers I could have.
Sorry, ours for taking followers on Instagram for $100 in color. Yes. $100 sounds good. It sounds about reasonable. Most artists in the indie scene I expect charging between 100 to 150. 120 is usually like that middle spot. And if they have followers on Instagram and are putting their portfolio on Instagram, that gives you the immediate sense of their works. There's a saying that ended up picking up from Mad Cave. Every hashtag is a portfolio. It's like people's social media presence. Social media stalking is a prerequisite to hiring anyone. Make sure that they're producing quality content and that their vision aligns with yours. So if you find the Instagram post, the art speaks to you, they have a following, which means they have an inbuilt audience. and they're charging you a reasonable number, then it sounds like you do your job vetting that one out. There. Go. And was this? Okay. And then for similar, Laurie Calcaterra says that they end up treating everything as a for-hire gig, so they end up paying people between $150 to $200 per page, all inclusive. So that's the color, an artist who's also doing color and letters on top of that. Comes to be about $1,500, not including cover, hiring cover separately. Which, sometimes your artist will also do the cover for you. Other times they'll say, no, get a cover artist. Which cover artist I feel like is, the dopest job, because essentially you're just a full-time painter, but for nerd crap.
Yeah.
Yeah. My friend's Ryan Miller. He's currently just doing covers for IDW for Transformers.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Cool.
So, his job was just painting Transformers all day.
Dude, listen. That'd be awesome if I got to paint like Bumblebee versus Starscream all day. Like those two are like I love those two, and if I could do that all day, sign me up. Right. All right. That'd be good. That'd be me if maybe like something Star Wars or Warhammer related. Or yeah. Yes. Could you imagine if I got to like draw Hayden Christensen's face all day? That'd be like my dream come true.
We'd never see you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be gone.
Yes. It'd be gone.
Yeah. Go. Okay. And also another friend of mine, Dave Skook. His run of Kiltopia, his last issue of Kiltopia, it cost about 7,000 pounds an issue, so a little bit more in USD. But Dave Skook is also Dave Kook. His current Twitter handle is Grave Spook, so I'm seeing that. But also he's been writing for a while. But so he's paying a little bit more. You don't
start out putting that much amount in.
No, you don't. You ever invest in? So yes, it is just two of us for tonight. But thankfully,
just your two favorites.
Exactly. But thankfully, like I mentioned, we had crowdsourced the research out. So again, thank you, Melissa Mazzaros, for asking this question on Twitter, so I can steal all of our mutuals' responses. Yes. So yeah, if you can do it all, yes, it can save you a lot. It also makes a difference if you're buying just board in sets of 100 instead of SA524. Yes, yeah, that's another thing, is buying material in bulk is also a whole other thing. Because if you're just buying small amounts of material, which sometimes you might do if you're just starting out, but your savings per project,
yeah, I agree.
Yes. I mean, I did work on one short film, not well marketed or attended. Don't watch it.
Don't watch. Wait, what is it? Now I have to go look.
But we had to bulk order baby food and Dr. Pepper.
What kind of film was
that? It was a black comedy, and there's a very goofy torture scene involved. But if you can just imagine the smell of a room full of like a bulk order of baby food and Dr. Pepper, it smelled like that was a warehouse for
what
a
kind
second.
of baby food?
I believe we got a Gerber's mix pack. Mostly carrot and peas.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't like, it was like a mix. Oh.
Yes. Yeah. You got the full oral factory sensation. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. That was a good time. Go.
It sounds it.
Yes. All right. Here we go. This one is there you go. Name. Okay, they're credited just as Fellhound, so dope creator name. they broke it down in USD and the chat. Yes. So their cost breakdown Canadian. So if you want to see what some other creators are paying if you live up north of the border, here's an idea for you.
Where my husband lives.
In Christensen. Yes. They are also a writer artist, but they paid for professional lettering, edits, and cover and logo design.
Mm-hmm.
So $20, 25 USD for letters, or CDN, 25 Canadian for letters, 10 USD, 13 Canadian for edits per page. Each of these is per page.
Mm-hmm.
A separate 200 USD and 250 Canadian for logo front page. Breaking down to about 860 USD, 1,086 Canadian, plus the price of their soul and their sleep per 22 pages.
Their soul, yeah.
Yeah. Also, another thing about is the cost of time. If to consider is if as a writer, we're very, very grateful in that our cost of time is minimal compared to others. As a writer, you're paying, probably as an illustrator, you're paying the most in cost of time. If a writer artist, your cost of time is absurd. So make sure this is what you want to do.
Yeah.
All right. Each will pay half up front, the rest at the end, or I'll pay in full once the progress and the artist is on the final stage. Think you're kind. Yes. As most comics hear about. Yeah. Front. Yes. Paying full up front. Some artists will try to say that's in their, that they only sign contracts where you pay full up front. But if they're in the business, they should know that writers have been burned before. And obviously, they'll want to get paid beforehand because they want to make sure that you will pay them before they start putting time into your work. But also, the key thing is just being open about, and it's all about communication. Try and keep it open and respectful with your artist as much as possible, saying like, this is my budget, this is what I have to spend, this matches our page rate. If I pay you up half now, we come back and check back in here, and we'll once we move on to the last step, so you can pay you the rest, or would you want to do this as a scheduled out payment? There's some guys who will I've seen some contracts where it's upon page done is where they want to see payment, so they'll send pages in batches, which depending on your payment schema, you may end up paying more in like Venmo, PayPal, or wire fees. Yeah. But if it's something where you can get around that, it's kind of weird, but I've seen it happen.
It's kind of whatever works. There's no like perfect way to do it.
Yeah, unless you get your contract like dead set in writing, and even then, contracts can be done differently on a case-to-case basis. The only places that are going to give you like a hard set, this is how we do it contract, are going to be bigger publishers. So, and even then, for those as a writer, if depending on how they accept submissions, if they're you may not be paying theirs out of pocket. Other times, you pay theirs out of pocket, shoot it out to them, and then you don't need to worry about the printing and the distribution and all that. But in my case, if you just get invited because the editor knows you, or hey,
high five,
woo, or sometimes it happens where if you're working like Image will only accept completed books unless the editor knows your work, in which case they might send you a RFP. Same which was an AD. Some of the works recently have been RFPs, where they'll pay you your contract essentially and hire the artist out of their pool. Probably because they've already had an artist who they've been trying to find work for. You might also need to pay kill fee for taking artists off the book. Yes, that's another thing. Watch out for your contracts. State, what exactly their obligation to an artist is. So contracts I worked with have stated that there you go. Yes. I have a RPGs all back there. Speaking of Advantage Plus 10 and other RPG nonsense, come back next Tuesday. If everyone is here, we should be able to do our Vampire the Masquerade live play session. Which, Mackenzie, we need to get you a character and also get you up to date on the rules of Vampire the Masquerade.
Okay.
Yes. So if you want to see some comic creators just up in full goth garb playing vampire games for Halloween, that'll be it.
Can I bring a dinosaur?
Is it Gangrel? The Beastmaster family. You could be one that turns into a rather large clawed lizard.
Ooh, I like it.
Yes.
Count me in.
It should be a fun stream indeed. So yeah, paying, what I was gonna say. Right, contract obligation. State in your contract if your artist is on the book for the full series, or if your obligation to them ends at the end of each issue. So saying like, we will renegotiate at the start of the next issue, or are you negotiating for the full run, or put in a stipulation saying like if you fail to produce work in this much time, the contract is voided.
Mm-hmm.
You'll still need to pay them for any work rendered, probably.
Yeah,
because it's good manners. But stipulation and obligation, it's something that no one wants to talk about because you never want to like bet against something working out.
Yeah.
But
you have to cover your bases.
You have to cover your bases. It's better to be prepared than not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you should also always have something like about like an edit or a redraw or something of that nature in there as well, because I've had things where like artists have handed me something and it's like, yeah, this looks great and it's perfect, and then you go to like put wording to it or something of that nature, and it doesn't work out, and you're like, hey, can you go back and you just edit this a little bit? And I've worked with really great people throughout my writing career, but I've had one or two where like they had an issue and they're like, yeah, if you pay me more, and it's like, okay, you knew a budget. It's really not that big. So I think you always just need, like we were saying,
yes,
bases covered.
Yes. Figuring out, a redraw at its budget.
Who said hi? I saw someone said hi.
Tommy.
Oh, hi, Tommy.
Yeah, I mean, working in marketing, we occasionally do film for like other companies and stuff like that for like promotional products. And we always negotiate our revision budget, and it's great for both parties because as the person hiring them out, they know they can get revisions this many times on the project that doesn't like it.
Yeah.
For the creator, it's great because you know that you're probably going to get a happier customer, but you can charge them more if they go overboard, or they just don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think like anything else, like you need to. Making a happier customer, then you get a repeat, and that's where you get like the big flow. Yeah, the constant flow of cash.
Yes. Your refund from ours have been full. He didn't give me a piece when he told me he would, and give me either. I found out he owed people. Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
That's brutal.
That's a little delayed.
Yes. Yeah, and that's payment upon completion, or some sort of void in contract saying like, well, you didn't complete it in this time frame, so your contract's void.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're also getting a lot into like the legalese of, the cost of self-publishing a comic book also comes down into the pre-work cost. So this is time and potentially money if you end up hiring an entertainment lawyer or an agent to draft up a contract for you, which you can do. They don't, ideally they don't want to represent you, but sometimes you can just get a one-off service from them. And hey, I always want a universal contract. I can, we can change things in with fields or whatever, but just make it look as binding as possible.
Regardless, even if the word contract scares someone, it's good to have some kind of agreement on the table. Something is better than anything.
Yeah. Handshakes and spoken word agreements for all well and good when you could disappear into the backwoods and never be found again. But as someone who's hiring out services, you want to be able to hold them accountable. but also as an artist or as whoever who's working on a project, having good contracts provides you again the idea of knowing your worth. Now how to fill out, like how to charge and lay out your own like pattern or schema for charging people, saying like, well, I know my time, so I'm only going to afford people now this many revisions, and you know how to negotiate the same things.
Yeah.
And that also, and if you're willing to work well within a contract, you're building a positive reputation within the community that leads to more work down the line as well.
Yep, agreed.
If it happens, it's often good to check. Building a good reputation is important. As when you find someone in interwebs, most people I found with have been friends of friends, or I have had mutuals with, or have had once I've contacted with them separately. They've been able to provide essentially a full thing behind them. Yeah.
I think it's good to do a little stalking before reaching out to anybody, because like I said, I've done projects, especially in film, where we were just desperate. Even the film I'm working on right now, like Disney took a couple of our animators, so like we were trying to reach out and get animators, and it's like at that point you are especially when you're working with a certain style and it's already animated, you're trying to find someone to match the style. And like you're reaching out to people on LinkedIn that you don't know that are just like open to connect. There's people like that. And that's when it can get a little wishy-washy. You either get really good people or people that you don't know and you're not sure how they work and they don't have the same morals as you, and you just run into issues.
Right. And that's all.
That's why you need a beautiful contract.
Beautiful contract. But that's what you gotta do, is you gotta, with Disney stealing your animators, you gotta tell them like, look, you can take all my animation staff, just let me be in the next Stars project, just next to creating Christian.
I know. Can I like negotiate this? Take all my animators, take them all.
Some folks can take guys who pay after work is done, so starting as an artist. Yes, definitely. Yeah, as an artist, understand that there is a payment window, that it may or may not be within that time frame. But also as a writer, then know that artists do have an expectation of a payment window.
Yeah.
Right. There are stories of writers who they get their pages in, and then 3 months roll by, 4 months roll by, and the artist has not been paid yet. All of a sudden, now that writer is now blackballed amongst like all their artist friends. So, both parties need a healthy expectation of what your payment window is going to look like. So definitely something to keep in mind, both as an artist and a writer, and really anyone involved.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, speaking some of those letter pages, $10, $20 lettering pages. I've heard some letters don't even track it because they never feel it when payment comes in, which maybe isn't the best practice, but
dude, I'm still not over that guy that draws all that shit and only gets paid $60.
That's how okay. I don't care if you're just out of college. If you're drawing, if you're penciling, inking, and coloring, charge more than $60. I don't care if it's dog water.
You're doing all three for like a full series, a full issue. I don't care. You're only charging that.
You've given that person your entire month. You've done nothing else that month.
Yeah.
Charge more.
Your life is worth more than that.
Yes. All right. We have been that's Silverline Show on Tuesday. It's been about an hour, and that's about good. Much like our content here, about good.
About good.
Yes. I've been Tim DK. You have been Mackenzie Ortman, and you, chat, have been chat. Yes. But do we have any new news? I got nothing as far as new news other than stream schedule. Next week will be Vampire the Masquerade live play session. Do you have anything coming up or anything you need to promote?
Listen, I'm just excited to be a part of next week. I can't wait.
Yes. Have you played a tabletop RPG before?
No.
Excellent.
I'm thrilled to learn and see.
It's improv theater with dice rolls.
Oh God.
It's a great time. You got to work on those acting chops so you can star opposite Hayden Christensen in the future.
No, you're right. You're right.
Yes,
You're just
yeah.
preparing me, and I thank you.
Yes.
I'm sure Hayden will thank you too one day.
Yes, absolutely. All right, chat. Do you have anything to plug yourselves? I will give you a little bit.
Hayden Christensen pops up and just says, "Good night, Mackenzie. Good
Right.
night, Hayden." If he ever shows up to one of these things, I'm leaving.
That's all good. Good. Yes. That's gonna be a whole thing.
Listen.
Thanks for being on tape and still with the yes. I have not taken this down since Daytona. The American Airlines were kind enough to let me bring it on, and it has not left.
Thank you, American Airlines.
Yes. Thank you, Peter, for
Yeah.
throwing your banner at me.
Wait, why do you have Peter's banner?
He didn't need it, and I love a good meme. So
Okay.
perfect. Yeah, I'll be Peter Clinton. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm just gonna figure out more ways I can just like put this in things and do stuff with it. So I'll be good.
That's amazing.
Maybe I'll dress it up for
you should like dress it up for Halloween. Like you should go out to dinner. Like anything. Like you should just post random photos. Like I'm out on a walk and it's just in the distance.
Right.
Oh, like I'm bird watching and it's just in the tree.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Eventually I'll do. Yeah, what I'll do eventually is go down to our Staples, and I'll just get an actual like big head style like printout of Peter Clinton strapped to the front of that, and then just have Peter Clinton on with me always.
Listen, I have enough cardboard cutouts. Just bring it over here.
Perfect.
His name with yours.
Yes. I'm just gonna steal his art credits now.
Really, you should like it should be a running joke. Like everybody gets it, and every time they get it, they just put their name.
Yeah, every convention is passing off to someone new.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, that has been our hour. So thank you all for coming in, chatting with us, telling us your own experiences with payments. Again, thank you, Melissa Mazeros from Don't Hide PR for crowdsourcing our research for us. And everyone who answered to that unknowingly providing content. Yes, it is. But we'll be back next week with a live play of Vampire the Masquerade. Come back in for streams tomorrow. I have to get used to the new schedule since we're on new networks, so I'm not sure what our schedules are. I know we have Wednesday Wham still, I believe at 8:15 Eastern. I believe is the new time.
I think that's what it said.
Yes. So I will. Do we have an ending? We do have an ending screener, so I'm going to throw that up. We'll catch you next week, and until that time,
make
mine Silverline.
Hey, I'm Pat Broderick. Make mine Silverline.